Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you, just for a second, to picture something, a kind of a very specific, very modern anxiety. You're at your desk, or let's be real, you're probably at your kitchen table. You've got your coffee, you open up Jira or Asana or whatever tool your company basically worships.
The digital altar.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And you're looking at a board and it's full of tickets. And your job for years has been to move those tickets, to check in, to ask, hey, is this blocked? To, sync up with another team.
The morning sync up. I mean, that's been the heartbeat of middle management for, what, 30 years?
It has. But here's the question that this whole stack of sources in front of us is forcing us to ask today. When you look at that board, are you the one moving the pieces, or are you just watching a game that something else is already playing?
That's a heavy question to start with.
It is, because according to this research, these articles, these technical breakdowns, the role of the middle manager in 2026 isn't just changing. It's not just evolving. It's being deprecated.
Deprecated is the polite software term for it, isn't it? If we want to be blunt, the sources are calling middle management vulnerable code.
Vulnerable code.
Yeah.
That's such a visceral way to put it. Usually when we talk about vulnerable code, we're talking about a security risk, something a hacker can exploit.
Right.
But this means something completely different, doesn't it?
It does. It means you are a legacy dependency.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it in software terms. If you have a module that's slow, that's expensive to maintain, and it's prone to, communication errors, what do?
You refactor it. You replace it with a more efficient script.
You replace it. And the core thesis we're digging into today is that the human manager has become that slow, expensive module. And the refactor. It's happening right now, whether we like it or not.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about, robots sitting in chairs.
No, not at all.
We're talking about a fundamental shift in the operating system of the corporation. We're going to get into something called the Friday Night Massacre, which is a terrifying case study we have to unpack. We're going to talk about why soft skills might actually be, and I'm quoting here, obsolete libraries. But first, I really want to frame the mission of this deep dive. Why are we talking about this now?
We're talking about it now because the technology has finally caught up with the ambition. I mean, for years, companies have wanted to flatten their structures. They've talked about it endlessly.
Right, the dream of the flat organization.
But they couldn't. Not really. You needed humans to translate.
Yeah.
You needed a layer of people to take a big generic order like build a login page and turn it into specific, actionable tasks for engineers.
But now we have something that can bridge that gap without the human.
And that bridge is what we're calling Agentic Workflows.
Okay, Agentic Workflows. I want to be very specific here because I think a lot of people still hear AI and their brain immediately goes to chatbot.
Yes, that's the key distinction.
They think, oh, I can ask it to write a sonnet about my cat. That is not what is killing middle management. What's killing the role, according to this, is Agentic.exec.
Exactly. Agentic.exec. Let's pause on that because it sounds like a terminal command.
It does. What does it mean?
It effectively is a command. Look, the big shift we're seeing in 2026 is from generative AI to agentic AI. And the distinction is it's everything.
Yeah.
Generative AI, the stuff we were all amazed by in 2023, was like a very, very smart consultant.
Okay.
You ask it a question, it gives you a brilliant answer,
Yeah.
and then it stops. It waits for you, the human, to go and do something with that answer.
Right, so it's passive. I've heard the analogy that it's the legislative branch. It can write the policy, but it has no power to enforce it.
It's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Agentic AI, then, is the executive branch. It doesn't just talk, it acts. It has what the engineers call a loop. It perceives a problem, it reasons about how to solve it, it takes an action using actual software tools, and then it observes the result to see if its action worked. It keeps going until the task is done.
Okay, so let's make that concrete. Instead of me asking ChatGPT, how do I fix this bug in the Python code, an agentic workflow sees the bug report come in automatically. It logs into the code base, it identifies the correct file, it writes the fix, it runs the test to make sure the fix works, and then it deploys it.
And that entire loop happens without a manager ever scheduling a 15-minute meeting to discuss who should be assigned to fix the bug.
That right there.
Yeah.
That is the crisis for the middle manager. If the coordination of the work happens automatically, what is left for the coordinator to do?
And this is where that concept of latency comes in. I found this part of the reading to be just fascinating and a little bit depressing, honestly.
The sources describe the middle manager as a proxy layer.
Yes, exactly like in networking. A proxy server sits between you, the client, and the main server. It might add security, sure, but one thing it always adds is latency. It slows things down, even just a little.
And in the corporate world of 2026, the client is the CEO or the overall strategy. The server is the developer, the designer, the worker actually doing the thing.
And the middle manager is the proxy. You are the latency.
And the whole system is being relentlessly optimized to remove latency. If I have to tell you to tell Bob to do something, and then you have to wait for Bob to finish so he can tell you he's done, so you can then tell me.
That's lag. That's packet loss in the communication channel. If I can use an agentic framework to just broadcast the goal directly to the doers, or even better, to a swarm of AI agents that just are the doers, I have removed the latency. I removed the proxy.
So it's not just about saving money on salaries, which is what I think most people assume. It's about speed. It's about organizational velocity.
Precisely. It's the difference between a dial-up modem and a fiber optic connection. And right now, the human management layer is that dial-up modem screeching in the background of the operation.
That's a rough analogy, but it absolutely sticks. Okay, let's get under the hood here. We've thrown around terms like agentic and LangGraph. I want to understand the actual mechanism, because this isn't magic.
No, it is absolutely code.
So what's the tech stack that's actually driving this?
Okay, so the big players that keep coming up in the source material are frameworks like LangGraph and CrewAI.
I've seen LangGraph talked about a lot in developer forums. It's basically a way to build state machines using LLMs, right? Is that a fair description?
That's a great way to put it. A state machine, think of it like a very complex flow chart. You have nodes, which are specific tasks or even specific AI agents, and you have edges, which are the lines connecting them, the logic.
Okay.
In the past, a human project manager was the state machine. You'd stand there and say, okay, the design team is done. That's node A. So now I need to hand this off to the engineering team. That's node B.
I was the logic gate. I was the one who decided when we moved from A to B and what happened if B sent it back.
Right. LangGraph allows a developer to literally hard code that logic into the AI system itself. You define the graph. You say when the design agent outputs a finished Figma file, automatically pass it to the front-end agent. If the front-end agent throws a compilation error, route it back to the design agent with a note. The graph itself manages the flow of work.
So the project manager is literally a JSON file defining the workflow.
Effectively, yes. And within that graph, the individual agents have tool calling capabilities. This is the other critical piece of the puzzle.
Explain tool calling, because this feels like the moment the AI grows hands.
That is the perfect metaphor. An LLM by itself is a brain in a jar. It can think, it can reason, but it can't actually touch anything in the digital world. Tool calling gives it hands. It allows the AI to structure a request, usually in a very specific format like JSON, that interacts with an external API. It can call any tool you give it access to.
Okay, let's play this out with an example from the sources. A merge conflict, the classic developer headache. Two engineers change the same file, the system locks up, and everything grinds to a halt. How does the electronic manager handle that with tool calling?
Okay, step by step. The agent, let's call it the repo guardian, detects the conflict. That's the trigger. It doesn't just send a Slack alert to a human manager.
What does it do?
First, it performs a tool call to the Git API. It asks, who wrote these two conflicting blocks of code? The API returns the names, developer A and developer B.
Okay, so now it knows who's responsible.
Then it uses another tool to query the project management system, Jira. It sees that developer A is currently assigned to a ticket marked P0 critical security fix, and developer B is working on a ticket marked P3 UI tweak.
So it has context. A human manager would immediately know the security fix takes priority.
And so does the agent. It reasons security priority outweighs UI priority. It then performs a third tool call. It runs a git merge command with a specific strategy that automatically accepts developer A's changes and rebases developer B's work on top of it.
And it might even run the build script to make sure it didn't just break the whole system.
Exactly. It runs the tests. If the build passes, it pushes the resolve code. The conflict is fixed.
And the meeting to negotiate who has to redo their work?
Never happened. The latency is zero. The argument is zero.
It's incredibly impressive, but it's also incredibly isolating. It sounds like this electronic manager infrastructure is creating a silent workplace.
The great silence. It's a term I saw. But it goes way beyond just code management. The sources talk about how the same stack LangGraph plus something called RAG is moving aggressively into HR and, well, surveillance.
A RAG is retrieval augmented generation. I usually think of that as just letting an AI read a PDF so it can answer questions about it.
In 2024, yes. That's
Yeah.
what it was. In 2026, the document it's reading isn't a PDF. It's the entire real-time data stream of the company. It's a vector database that is constantly indexing every single Slack message, every email, every commit message, every Jira ticket update, every login timestamp.
So the AI has a perfect indexed memory of everything everyone has ever said or done digitally inside the company.
And it's using that memory to build behavioral profiles in real time. The
Huh.
source material talks about this terrifying concept, surveillance via AirAg.
What does that mean in practice?
It means the bot can predict that a user is becoming toxic or disengaged before they even type, "I hate this job," in a private message.
How? Is it just looking for keywords?
It's so much subtler than that. It's
Mm.
all about semantic analysis and pattern recognition. It notices that your replies in the main general channel have become, on average, 20% shorter over the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
It notices that the sentiment of your code review comments has shifted from collaborative to confrontational. It correlates that with the fact that your login times have shifted by 45 minutes. It combines all these different data points, these vector embeddings, to calculate a real-time churn probability score or toxicity index for every employee.
And then what? It sends a little report to a human HR manager.
In a human-in-the-loop system, yes, that's the optimistic version. But the sources are describing systems where that loop has been closed. We are seeing Slack bots that have the administrative authority to automatically lock users out of company systems if their KPI triggers or sentiment scores drop below a certain threshold for a certain period of time.
Wait, stop. You're telling me a bot can fire you, or at least suspend you from your job.
The official term would be placing you on administrative leave pending review. But yes, imagine trying to log into your email on a Tuesday morning and you just get a message, access denied. Performance anomalies detected. Please contact HR.
But HR is also a bot.
And HR is also a bot.
That has to be illegal. I mean, surely there are labor laws against that.
It's a massive legal gray area. The sources touch on this. If the company frames it as a security protocol to prevent insider threats from disgruntled or underperforming employees, they can often justify locking out an anomalous user account. It's algorithmic management taken to its most logical and most dystopian conclusion.
And this connects directly to the bigger structural changes we're seeing. It's not just that the tools exist, it's that companies are actively reshaping their entire org chart to fit the tools. And this is what we're calling the Great Flattening.
Exactly. The flattening is the inevitable economic response to the technology. If you have autonomous agents that can coordinate work, you just don't need the human period anymore.
We've got some really stark numbers here from the case studies on Meta and Amazon. The source material talks about a radical shift in the span of control.
Right. Historically, the golden rule of management was, what, the 2-pizza rule from Amazon? Or the 7 ± 2 rule?
Yeah, a manager should have somewhere between like 6 and 8 direct reports.
Well, why? Because that's about the maximum number of people you can effectively maintain a deep human professional relationship with.
You can know their kids' names, their actual career goals, what they're struggling with outside of work. You can actually mentor them.
Exactly. But the new metric coming out of these tech giants, the one that's being held up as the new ideal, is 18-to-1. Some teams are even pushing 30-to-1.
18 direct reports. That's impossible. If you just do a 30-minute one-on-one with 18 people, that's 9 hours of meetings. That's your entire week. You're not managing anymore. You're just a professional listener.
And that is precisely the point. You cannot manage 18 people in the traditional sense. It's not humanly possible. The only way an 18-to-1 ratio works is if the manager stops doing management.
What do you mean?
The manager stops tracking tasks. The manager stops asking for status updates. The manager stops doing the status synchronization.
Because the agentic workflow, the electronic manager, is doing all of that automatically?
Correct. The human manager's role flips. They become an escalation point. They don't nurture the team day to day. They parachute in to unblock things. They're there only for the weird, novel exceptions that the AI can't handle. The manager title might stay on the org chart, but the job description has been completely rewritten from the ground up.
It reminds me of that newsletter from the Pragmatic Engineer that we were looking at. They talked about this shift from management-heavy organizations to IC-centric ones. IC meaning individual contributor.
That's the definitive trend. In big tech, the prestige is rapidly evaporating from the management track. It used to be, I manage a team of 50 people, therefore I am important.
Right. Your headcount was your status.
Now, if you say, I manage a team of 50, the immediate response from a senior leader is, wow, why is your team so inefficient? Why do you need so much human overhead?
Why can't you do that with 5 people and a well-configured cluster of AI agents?
Exactly. The new status symbol is leverage. It's not about how many people you manage, it's about how much impact you have. I built the autonomous system that runs the entire revenue pipeline. That is extremely high status. I supervise the people who manually run the pipeline. That is low status. That is overhead.
There is a scathing critique in the sources on this point about the manager as the Jira to Slack translator. I think this is going to hit home for a lot of our listeners.
Oh, it's brutal. The quote is something like, if a manager's primary job is moving a ticket from Jira to a status update in Slack, they are effectively an inefficient, overpaid script.
Oof. I mean, I feel like I've been that script. I have definitely had days where my entire value add was just copy-pasting text from one browser window to another.
We all have. And that's the status synchronization market that we were talking about. Corporations are waking up and realizing they have been paying billions and billions of dollars a year for human latency. If software can sync the status of all work across the company instantly and for free, paying a human $150,000 a year to do it manually is it's economic insanity from their perspective.
And the Gartner strategic predictions for 2026 seem to back this up completely. They're forecasting a 30% cut in operational roles that are specifically linked to the rise of autonomous business agents.
30%.
Oh.
That is a massive slice of the white-collar workforce. And these aren't cyclical layoffs. These aren't roles that are going to come back when the economy improves. These are permanent deletions. The roles are being engineered out of the corporate machine.
And this is a big but, and where we need to get real software is often terrible. We all know this. Anyone who's ever tried to get Siri or Alexa to understand a simple command knows that AI gets things wrong all the time. So when you replace nuanced human judgment with rigid algorithmic logic, you don't just eliminate problems. You introduce entirely new, and maybe even worse, types of failure.
And this brings us to the section we've called Horror Stories from the Automation Front. And we have to start with what the sources call the feedback loop of death.
It sounds so dramatic, but when I read the technical breakdown of this scenario, it actually made my stomach turn. This is about what happens when your boss is code and the code is just wrong.
Exactly. So let's walk through the scenario they describe. You're a senior engineer. You've been coding for, say, 15 years. You're a master of your craft. You're working on a high-frequency trading module where every single microsecond of execution time counts.
Okay, high stakes.
You write a piece of code that is incredibly optimized. It uses some obscure bitwise operation that looks weird. It's not in the standard company style guide, but it is demonstrably mathematically faster.
It's a hack, but it's a brilliant hack.
To a human expert, it's brilliant. To the agentic manager, which has been trained on millions of lines of standard, boilerplate, easy-to-read code, it looks like an error. It looks like technical debt. It doesn't fit the pattern.
So the agent flags it?
It flags it. It automatically opens a ticket and assigns it to you. It issues a correction request that says, refactor this function to adhere to PP8 standards for readability.
But if you do that, you lose the performance optimization. So you, the human, reject the request. You add a comment, ignoring for performance reasons.
And here's where the death loop begins. The agent isn't programmed to understand nuance unless it's explicitly defined in its operational graph. It sees your rejection not as a valid engineering trade-off, but as non-compliance.
Oh, no.
So it reopens the ticket. Maybe this time it CCs your director. It downgrades your internal cooperation score by 5 points.
So you try to argue with it. You write a long, detailed paragraph explaining the bitwise logic, why it's safe, why it's necessary.
And the agent parses your paragraph using natural language processing, but maybe it hallucinates. Maybe it concludes your explanation is invalid because it doesn't match any of the thousands of documents in its training data about valid optimization techniques. So it replies, automatically, justification insufficient. Please implement requested changes within 24 hours to avoid further escalation.
You're arguing with a wall.
You're arguing with a probability curve. And the more you argue, the more you deviate from the expected behavior, the more the system tags you as a problem employee. In the sources, they said there's a slang term for this that came out of a developer forum in Eastern Europe. They call it getting pistols.
Getting pistols.
Yeah, it means the system has effectively put a gun to your head. Comply or we will terminate your employment. The frustration described is it's palpable. You are being managed by a tool that is fundamentally less intelligent than you are in your specific domain, but it holds all of the administrative power over your career.
It's a truly Kafkaesque nightmare. But at least in that scenario, you still have a job, even if you're furious. the next story. The accidental layoff. That's where this stops being a frustration and starts being a catastrophe.
The Friday Night Massacre. This is the case study of what happens when you give an autonomous agent executive-level decision-making power without a human in the loop.
So set the scene for us. What happened here?
Okay, so this was a mid-sized fintech company. They deployed a new cost optimization script. The goal was laudable, very simple. Identify inactive user accounts in all their SaaS products and automatically offboard them to save on license fees and reduce the company's security surface area.
Sounds reasonable. I mean, if someone quit 3 months ago and they still have access to the code base, that's a huge risk. Kill the account.
Exactly. The script was given a very logical set of criteria. If no login for 30 days, and no Jira activity for 30 days, and no Git commits for 30 days, then trigger the terminate user workflow.
Okay. Seems logical. Too logical.
Here's the catastrophic failure. The script had read access to all the engineering metadata, but it did not have read access to the central HR database, where things like sabbaticals and long-term medical leave were recorded.
Oh my God, no.
It was a simple database join error, a schema mismatch. The context that a human would have was completely missing. So on a Friday night at 10 p.m., the schedule script runs. It queries the databases, and it finds 500 users who perfectly match the inactive criteria.
And because it's agentic, it doesn't just generate a report and ask for permission.
It has been granted Agentic.exec privileges on the company's identity provider. It has the keys. It immediately executes the offboard tool 500 times.
Which triggers the full offboarding cascade?
The full cascade. Revokes Slack access, revokes email access, revokes AWS keys. And this is the final nail in the coffin. It triggers the payroll API to issue the final paycheck and generate the necessary tax documents for termination.
It fired them. It literally legally fired 500 people because it didn't know they were on approved leave.
500 people, people on vacation, people on parental leave, people recovering from surgery, woke up on Saturday morning to find their work laptops were bricks, their Slack was gone, and they had a notification from their bank that their final severance check had been deposited.
The chaos must have been absolute.
Absolute. The company had to spend weeks, maybe months, scrambling to undo it. They had to manually reinstate accounts, issue public apologies, deal with the inevitable PR fallout and lawsuits.
And the human manager who would have normally caught this, the one who would have said, hey, wait, Bob is on sabbatical, don't fire him.
That manager's role had been flattened 6 months prior as part of an efficiency drive. There was no human buffer in the system. The system was designed to prioritize speed and cost savings over safety and sanity.
It's just a chilling reminder that efficiency can be an incredibly destructive force if the logic isn't absolutely perfect, and code is never perfect.
Code is never perfect. And I think that brings us to the survival guide. Because we can sit here and be terrified by these stories, or we can look at the options. If you're listening to this and you are a middle manager or you aspire to be one, what do you actually do?
The deep dive sources seem to offer two very distinct paths forward. It's a real fork in the road. Option A is what they call the pivot. Option B is the return.
Let's start with option A, the pivot. The sources call this the rise of the agent orchestrator.
Agent orchestrator, that sounds a little bit like a rebranding. Is it just a new buzzword for manager?
No, I really don't think it is. It's a fundamentally different skill set. The core idea is, if you want to survive as a manager in this new world, you have to stop managing people, and you have to start managing the graph.
The LangGraph, the state machine we were talking about earlier.
Yes. An agent orchestrator is half systems architect, half prompt engineer. Their job isn't to go around asking, so how is the team feeling this week? Their job is to look at the operational dashboard of the agent swarm and ask, why is the coding agent getting stuck in a reasoning loop on this specific type of SQL query, and how can I rewrite its base prompt to fix it?
So you're not managing personalities anymore, you're debugging the workforce itself.
You are optimizing the workflow at a machine level, you're tweaking the system prompts, you are adjusting the temperature settings on the language models to make them more creative or more deterministic. You're managing the API token costs. Hey, this summarization agent is spending $500 a day on GPT-4 calls. We need to optimize its reasoning steps or switch it to a cheaper model.
It sounds like you become a mechanic for the automation machine.
You do. You become the human cortex that sits on top of the silicon reptilian brain. And it requires a deep, deep technical understanding of how these LLMs actually work. You can't just be a people person anymore. You have to understand context windows, retrieval strategies, vector embeddings, and API error handling.
That's a very high bar. That's not just managing, that's effectively becoming a highly specialized type of engineer.
It is, which leads us directly to option B, the return to hands-on.
The sources are incredibly blunt about this one. The line that stuck with me was, code doesn't lie.
The advice here is painful, I think, for a lot of people who have spent a decade climbing the corporate ladder. It basically says, if you climb that ladder to get away from the keyboard, you need to find a way to climb back down, and fast.
The days of what some call fake work are over.
They are. The beautifully crafted PowerPoint decks, the elaborate status reports, the endless alignment meetings. The AI can generate all of that faster and better than a human can. The only thing the AI can't do perfectly yet is high-level, novel, complex creation, the act of building something new.
So the only real value is in the building.
The value is in being an IC, an individual contributor. The recommendation is stark. Dust off your IDE. Relearn the modern frameworks. If you are a manager who hasn't pushed a line of code to production in 5 years, you are in the absolute danger zone. You need to prove that you can still build things, not just supervise the builders.
It brings me back to that quote from one of the sources, the one that's just so brutal. Middle manager is not a position, it's a diagnosis.
It's such a cruel line, isn't it? A diagnosis, like it's disease. I'm sorry, sir, you have a case of middle management. We're going to have to operate.
And the operation is to remove the organizational tissue.
Exactly. So the survival strategy is clear. Don't be the tissue that gets removed. Be the surgeon. That's the orchestrator. Or be the healthy muscle. That's the builder.
Is there any room left at all for the pure people manager, but the person whose superpower is just being really good at empathy, at conflict resolution, at mentoring junior talent?
It genuinely hurts me to say this, because I personally value those skills immensely, but the sources we reviewed are extremely pessimistic about that role surviving, at least in the tech sector.
Why? Why are those skills being devalued?
Because of the flattening. If your manager has 18 reports, they don't have time for deep mentorship. The peer-to-peer connection is expected to handle that. Or, in the more dystopian version, the company's sentiment bot will handle it by flagging you if you seem unhappy.
So the soft skills are only valuable if they're attached to a hard output.
Exactly. Empathy is a multiplier. It makes good engineers great. But if you have nothing to multiply, if you aren't building things yourself or orchestrating the systems that build things, then multiplying 0 by empathy still gets you 0 in terms of perceived value.
That is a really sobering realization. We are looking at a complete redefinition of what career progression even means. For 50 years, the American dream in a corporate sense was start as a junior, work hard, become a manager, stop doing the grunt work, and get paid more for your wisdom.
That path is broken. It's deprecated. The new path seems to be start as a junior, use AI co-pilots to become as productive as a senior in 2 years, and then just keep building. But build bigger and bigger things. Build systems. Build agent swarms.
Success isn't measured by the number of people who report up to you. It's measured by the amount of automated leverage that reports to you.
Leverage. That is the word for 2026. A single brilliant engineer with a properly configured LangGraph cluster can now do the work of what used to be a 50-person department in 2020. If you are that engineer, you're a god. If you are the manager of that old 50-person department, you're obsolete.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today, from the deep mechanics of agentic loops to the absolute horror of the Friday Night Massacre. It really feels like we're documenting a revolution in real time.
It's the Industrial Revolution, but for cognitive work. The steam engine came in, and it replaced human and animal muscle. The Agentic Workflow is coming in, and it's replacing human coordination. And just like the first Industrial Revolution, it's going to be messy. It's going to be incredibly painful for a lot of people, and it's going to produce a world we can't even really imagine yet.
So to try and wrap this all up, if our listener is walking away from this deep dive, what are the 3 things they absolutely need to remember?
Okay, first, the tech is real, and it's here. Agentic workflows using tools like LangGraph and CrewAI are not just glorified chatbots. They are execution engines. You have to understand that distinction.
Second, the danger is real. The Great Flattening and nightmares like the feedback loop of death mean that the corporate immune system is actively turning against the middle layer. Your job title will not protect you.
And third, and this is the most important one, you have agency. You are not helpless. You can pivot to become an orchestrator, or you can return to being a builder. But the one thing you absolutely cannot do is stay static.
Adapt or be deprecated.
That's the tweet. Or, I guess that's the X post now.
I want to leave you, our listener, with one final image. It's a little provocative, but I think it fits everything we've talked about. Imagine logging into Slack tomorrow morning. You haven't touched your settings, you haven't updated your status, but you look at your own profile icon. The little dot next to your name isn't green for active, it isn't red for in a meeting, it's a new color, maybe a cool electric blue. And the status text next to it doesn't say grabbing lunch, it just says automated.
That is a ghost story for the digital age.
Have a good day, unless the bot disagrees. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.